The Armed Forces of Armenia. The military of Armenia can be traced back to the founding of the First Republic of Armenia in 1918. Being a landlocked country, Armenia has no navy. The commander-in-chief of the military is the Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan. The Ministry of Defense is in charge of political leadership, headed by Vagharshek Harushninyan, while military command remains in the hands of the General Staff, headed by the Chief of Staff, who is Lieutenant General Stepam Gulstyum. Border guards subject to the Ministry of Defense until 2001. Patrol Armenia's borders with Georgia and Azerbaijan, while Russian troops continue to monitor its borders with Iran and Turkey. Since 2002, Armenia has been a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization. Armenia signed a military cooperation plan with Lebanon on the 27th of November 2015. The 7th Guards Army was based in Yerevan from 1946 to 1992. The modern Armenian military entered its first stage at the beginning of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, when Armenian militias were formed to combat Azerbaijani units in Artsakh. On the 20th of September 1990, the first military unit was created, the Yerevan Special Regiment, with the first oath being held in the Republican Assembly Point and was attended by the first President of Armenia Levon Petrosyan, Prime Minister Vazgen Manukyan, Vazgen Sargsyan. Armenia established a Ministry of Defense on the 28th of January 1992. The first military unit to be formed was the 1st Airborne Regiment, where the first Armenian soldier took the oath to the nation that March. The Treaty on Conventional Armed Forces in Europe was ratified by the Armenian Parliament in July 1992. The treaty establishes comprehensive limits on key categories of military equipment, such as tanks, artillery, armored combat vehicles, combat aircraft, and combat helicopters, and provides for the destruction of weaponry in excess of those limits. Armenian officials have consistently expressed determination to comply with its provisions, and thus, Armenia has provided data on armaments as required under the CFE treaty. Despite this, Azerbaijan accuses Armenia of diverting a large part of its military forces to Nagorno-Karabakh and thus circumventing these international regulations. In March 1993, Armenia signed the Multilateral Chemical Weapons Convention, which calls for the eventual elimination of chemical weapons. Armenia acceded to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty as a non-nuclear weapon state in July 1993. The Armenian Armed Forces are headquartered in Yerevan, where most of the General Staff is based. The General Staff is responsible for operational command of the Armenian military and its two major branches. In addition to the services listed above, Armenia established its own internal troops from the former Soviet interior troops after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Up until December 2002, Armenia maintained a Ministry of Internal Affairs, but along with the Ministry of National Security, it was reorganized as a non-ministerial institution. The two organizations became the Police of Armenia and the National Security Service. According to IISS 2010, Armenia has 20 T-80 tanks, 137 T-72 tanks, 8 T-54 55 tanks and 80 BMP-1s, 7 BMP-1K, 55 BMP-2 and 12 BRM-1K. Wheeled APCs reported included 11 BTR-60s, 21 BTR-70s, 4 BTR-80s, 145 MTLBs, 5 BMD-1S, and 120 BRDM-2 scout vehicles. Although the Russians have supplied newer equipment to Armenia over the years, the numbers have never been sufficient to upgrade all ground force formations, and many of the lower readiness units still have older Soviet legacy systems that have not been upgraded or in many cases effectively maintained. These older systems are placing great demands on the logistics system for service, maintenance, replacement parts and necessary upgrades, costing the army both financially and in overall readiness. The ground force is engaged in an effort of reassessment, reorganization and restructuring, as the future of Armenia's defense needs a revised force structure and unit mix. The army sees the need to maintain much of its traditional mechanized formations, but is looking to lighten and make more mobile and self-sustainable a small number of other formations. It must develop these newer formations to support its international requirements and effectively operate in mountainous and other rugged terrain. But it must do this without affecting the mechanized capability that is needed to confront Azerbaijan's conventional forces. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, Armenia has followed a policy of developing its armed forces into a professional, well-trained, and mobile military. In 2000, the Center for International Studies and Research reported that at that time the Armenian army had the strongest combat capability of the three South Caucasus countries' armies. CSTO Secretary Nikolai Bordura came to a similar conclusion after collective military drills in 2007 when he stated that the